Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into a meticulous, high-energy deep dive of a text that manages to tell a massive story in just a handful of words. We usually think we need hundreds of pages to really grasp a complex framework, right? But honestly, sometimes the exact roadmap we need is hiding in plain sight, literally right on the cover. We're going to deconstruct the highly specific, incredibly intentional vocabulary used on the front page of this modern scholarly guide. By zeroing in on these exact words, we're going to unlock the mindset you need for top-tier academic and professional success. So let's get right into it.
It's a massive question, isn't it? Like, what does it truly take to achieve scholarly excellence? We hear that phrase thrown around all the time, don't we? In universities, research labs, high-level strategy meetings. But let's be real, it often feels like this vague, intangible goal. Is it just about reading a ton of books? Is it about memorizing the right jargon? Well, the answer to the mechanics of actual academic success isn't some heavily guarded secret. It actually lies directly in the specific vocabulary of the source text we're analyzing today. The authors have deliberately chosen words that act as a literal step-by-step formula.
Okay, let's dive into this. The title of our source material is Thinking Critically, Writing Analytically. Notice how these two concepts form this sort of academic dual mandate. It's like a giant puzzle. These are two completely distinct skills, but they are absolutely inextricably linked. You simply cannot separate them if you actually want to succeed. See, thinking critically is your internal process. It's how you take in data, question assumptions, and break down complex arguments. But you know that internal process? It's completely invisible to the rest of the world until you execute the second half, writing analytically. That's your external output. It's how you structure your internal thoughts onto a page so that someone else can actually follow your logic. One without the other, it just falls completely flat.
And this brilliantly illustrates the exact mindset required to master that dual mandate. Look at the subtitle, The Intellectual Craftsman's Guide to Scholarly Excellence. I really want to draw your attention to that specific word, craftsman. The authors didn't call this the student's guide or the researcher's guide. No, they used craftsman. This intentionally frames academic writing not as some tedious chore, not as a boring assignment you just rush through at 2 a.m. the night before a deadline, but as a meticulous, hands-on trade. Think of a master woodworker or a metalsmith. They have very specific tools, they understand their materials deeply, and they take immense pride in the structural integrity of what they build. This subtitle is telling us we need to treat our intellect and our words with that exact same level of physical respect.
So the crucial point is understanding exactly how this specific mindset shifts your daily habits. Based on our source, we can define an intellectual craftsman as someone who builds scholarly work with strategic, deliberate care, rather than just hastily stringing facts together to hit some arbitrary word count. It's basically the difference between tossing a bunch of bricks into a pile and calling it a house versus carefully laying out a foundation, measuring the mortar, and building a structure that can actually withstand a massive storm. When you adopt the identity of an intellectual craftsman, every single sentence you write becomes a deliberate structural choice designed to support your overarching thesis. Now, what's really interesting about this is the fascinating micro-narrative of the two actual architects behind this text. On one side, representing the overarching strategy, we have Kassan Japheth, whose titles are Lead Strategist and Framework Originator. So this implies he's the high-level architect, right? The person designing the foundational blueprints for how to think and write. Then, on the other side, we have Cassian Ndungu, a PhD candidate and augmented scholar. A PhD candidate is someone who is currently in the trenches, actively wrestling with these exact concepts in modern academia. The synergy here is just fascinating. You've got the theoretical framework designer collaborating directly with the active, on-the-ground academic practitioner. It's this perfect blend of high-level strategy and ground-level execution.
Let's move on and see how this all builds into a complete, cohesive picture of our source material. By extracting these exact data points from the cover, we ground ourselves in the core metadata. So, we've got the title establishing the dual mandate of thinking and writing. We have the subtitle establishing that craftsman mindset required for excellence. We have our strategic and augmented authors. And finally, we have the official publisher tying the whole shebang together, Finstock Evercity Press. It is a completely unified package, signaling a very specific, deliberate approach to mastering the actual mechanics of scholarly work.
All of this exploration really leaves us with a critical reflection. We saw that incredibly unique title of augmented scholar applied to one of the authors, which implies that modern craftsmanship doesn't just rely on the old ways. It embraces new tools to actively enhance the intellect. So based on the blueprint we've just deconstructed, I want to leave you with this. How are you actively augmenting your own scholarly toolkit today?
Are you just stringing facts together, or are you actually building your work like a true intellectual craftsman? The frameworks for this kind of modern scholarly excellence are out there, waiting in this text. Thanks so much for joining me on The Explainer today, and keep building your knowledge one deliberate piece at a time.